Hello, this is Brickworld, Indianapolis, and we are here at the Great Ball Contraption in Indy. And we're going to start with a module that was really built by John Brost. It came from the coal conveyor set that had the digger in it, and he converted that over to a conveyor that then feeds into out the bottom and up to a conveyor. This is also a module of John Brost's where we have the green flippers, then the yellow flippers come up, and it's a very unique module and it's very reliable. Then what John did was he created a dual stepper module that takes balls from both sides, and we use the snake pieces from Akiyuki to feed a dual loop into one kind of the spiral feed, and it's kind of the John, what do we call this?
It's a wheel.
Yeah, okay, so it's a wheel.
Very complicated name.
Yes, yeah, well, it is. And this one obviously comes down, it pushes the bottom down, and it lifts it up and dumps it that way. So from here, this is the elevator system, and today it's working pretty well. We don't have a lot of balls underneath, which is good, and so it comes up from there and then feeds into this module. But we have this very unique that I've not seen repeated anywhere, where it pushes the balls this way instead of having a ball pump that goes up or something else. And so you can see some of the, if you point the white, that we get the plastic from the wear and tear and gears and everything else.
Will you switch pieces out during a show if it gets too worn?
Well, oh, absolutely, mainly because it quits. And so when a module doesn't run anymore or gets really slow, we'll do that. The other thing that happens is we get motors that will, hit the end of the life in the middle of the show, and we'll show you a couple of those as we go. This is simply a stepper module. It was one of the Brickworld modules we built a number of years ago as a kit. And that feeds into John's module where it comes up. It can go 4 different ways, and it works on this little system where the ball goes in, it tips that one, the next one tips that one, and so it all goes 4 different ways, which is really unique and really cool.
It's a choose-your-own-adventure for the ball path.
Yes, for the ball. The ball gets to choose where it goes. And then we come up to the counter machine, which has 4 paths that come up, and then we come up into, if you want to shoot from this one, the Archimedes screw. And the balls work up the Archimedes screw like this, and it's a very unique module. We have a couple other Archimedes screws, but they're done in different ways, and we'll talk about those as we get to them. Again, what we have is a dual stepper instead of the single stepper we had over there, and this dual stepper feeds into Josh Cottrell's modules. So this one likes to doesn't have a lot of horsepower, and so if you get a lot of balls in it like this, it wants to fling them or just kind of stop. And so that's one we have to watch, but it's just the way it is. This is one Josh built that goes back and forth, and if we can get some balls in there, you'll see it tip this way and go this way, comes back, tips this way, and goes that way. It's very unique, so it's really cool.
I like the orange color. It makes it fun to watch.
Oh, yes. It's very unique. And so we have the traditional Brickworld module that steps up and down. This is an Akiyuki module that Josh actually went to Japan and went to one of Akiyuki's workshops and brought this back. And so there are 3 or 4 of these that we've copied. It works really well when it's short. I built a longer one thinking it would work well. It doesn't, because with the shortness, the axle stays good. But when you go long, the axle wants to bend, and bending axles don't go round really well.
Also, shout out to the ghost figure there as well.
And we have you can see we have a pumpkin over there, and you can see we have a ghost coming up here. So we've tried to theme the entire thing with a little bit of Halloween. So This is just simply a stepper module. This is a very unique one by Josh Cottrell again. It goes back and forth. I like the pink because it's a different color than most people. It's very reliable. It obviously gets backed up a little, but the balls do continually move back and forth and move on. This is also the Josh Cottrell module. The only issue with this one is if you get a lot of balls in here at once, it doesn't want to feed. And so if you get a couple, which usually this one's good for, it will automatically dump in there.
So you kind of line up the modules in the right way then that they feed into the best ones ahead of them.
That's certainly what we try to do. Absolutely. This is a Steve Hassenplug module. And so he's had this here for years, and it works really well. And if we slow it down, you can see how it picks the ball up, and then it comes up and hits this blue bar with this gray, and it opens the rubber band up. And so it's a very unique module. I've seen it, other people build them, but his, with all the decoration of the robots and everything else, and of course we had to put a couple skeletons on top to keep with the theme this week. So from there we go to a simple wheel module that goes around. It can take a lot of balls at once. Then we go to kind of the stepper module. It doesn't go as fast as you want, and if we speed this one up, then we put more balls into this. And that was back to your thing of how do you line modules up to get the right amount going through. So this is an Aki-Uki cup to cup. And so the unique part here, I'll slow it down, is you can make it go really slow and it still passes the balls. I used to be able to speed it up and it would pass the balls, but my cat destroyed that, so I think we had that discussion in the past.
You got to be careful when the animals get involved.
Yes, so back to full speed, and we keep it at that speed, and we have a mark on this so it doesn't go too fast. And that way it keeps up with what's coming into it. From there, what we have is a ball pump, but we've decorated it as a minion. And we always tell the kids, beetle, 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 because if you remember, the guy had a fire hat and the lights were on it. And so we decorated it that way. We have a couple of them on the front. We actually have a picture here of the minion. This is simply one of the ball pumps that, 3 or 4 years ago, I don't know if it was Brian Alano or somebody else came up with a very reliable ball pump. Because up until that point, they were pretty unreliable. And we used them, but they gave us problems. And so this is a creeper, and we've tried to put a lot of minions out here. You can see we have the pig out there. We got the ocelot over there. And so we've tried to decorate it with the theme because we know the kids love Minecraft.
Yes.
And so this works really well. Again, a ball pump, so it pumps the balls up here. It comes out their mouth, and it's really cool. So again, we talked about the Aki-Uki module that Josh Cottrell came up with. This is kind of the same thing. This is the one I tried to extend out, and after we did 3 or 4 shows with it, we realized it wasn't going to work. And so I've shrunk it back down, and so now it's very reliable. The thing I have to work on is probably the agitator, because if you get too many balls in at once, it likes to throw them up, which is not where you want the balls going either.
As entertaining as that is.
Yes, that's right. Yep. This is simply one of the modules, again, that advances the balls through the steps. This is one where, again, as we went through the motor here, and John caught this, the axle actually walked out over 2 days. The motor was still running, but the axle had walked out of there. And so it's just one of those things, one of those mechanical issues that you run into every day and you go, why isn't it working? And now you've got to go through this process of, well, let's take the motor off. You took the motor off and there's no axle in it, and so it's that process of how do you fix things. Simply one of the older contraptions we got from Brickworld. That was a kit a long time ago. This is also one of the stepper kits. This is a module from Brian Alano, who used to be with us, has moved to Florida, and it works wonderfully. You can feed it balls, and it's kind of a reverse Archimedes screw coming up.
It was nice that he didn't leave you the unreliable modules.
That's right. So this works really nicely. It feeds balls, and Brian had come up with a very nice how do you feed it off this into this, and that ramp. He did a beautiful job with that ramp. Again, we come back to the back and forth stepper module from Brickworld. Another one that again we talked about, the ball pump. This is the ski lift. And this is mine, and we have decorated it with, with Anna and Elsa, Olaf, and it works pretty well. We have a little snowball fight going on here between snow golems and Olafs.
I love the little stud shooters.
Yes, and so they're having a snowball fight, and it's really nice from there. So we really decorate this for the girls, to be honest. And they come by and they go, I know, it's so nice to have to be able to work that way. And of course, we had to add some, Halloween effects and those type of things. So at the end of this, the ski lift comes up, and you go down kind of you ski down into, the traditional module that rotates. Probably most people don't remember back in Chicago Brickworld, where we had like 70 of these stacked.
I remember that. Yes, you can find that in an old Beyond the Brick video.
And it really is awesome. And it dropped into a net and it kept going. And so that was really awesome, having that be the kit. So again, this is one of your tipper modules, as we'll call it. From that, this is one of the oldest Brickworld kits, simply a slide with a conveyor that goes up. Again, this is one of the modules that I believe Brian Bonahum and a few others worked on. Again, this is the one that was probably 70 high or so, and it was really nice. This is a rotating very slowly. I've changed the gear on this, but I thought that was a nice speed, and it feeds into the ball coaster, which we'll get to next. I did it, I thought, into University of Michigan colors, and so that was the thought process. I had actually created one with University of Wisconsin colors, but it's not here, so.
Okay.
But so it's from there. This is the ball coaster, and this is mine again. And this is a module that we probably did 2015, I think it showed up. And when I initially did it, just to tell you how evolution of these things, I had the balls going straight out. And so this loop-to-loop would shoot balls 4 or 5 or 6 modules past where you wanted them. And so I learned from doing it that I had to put this little bend in here so that it would slow the balls down and be able to go to the next module reliably.
You can incorporate that as a ski jump technique at the end.
Yes, into the ski jump. And so we have a kind of a natural selection here. We have this little cheese piece at the top. It's supposed to be more like 50-50, but there goes one. And so it's really nice. It used to have a third loop. It doesn't anymore, just from a transportation standpoint. You've got to get them to the show, or it doesn't really work. And so this is a loop-to-loop at the bottom. And what I had to do when I built this was I had to have a couple different elevation builds because it wouldn't do the loop-to-loop. And as I did some research, I realized the loop-to-loop isn't a circle, it's an egg shape. Okay, and so that was education for me. And so from there, you can see now we go into this, and there's a couple rubber stoppers that help in theory. And here again, we have a couple tippers, as we call them, in a row. They were brick, and here we have the stepper module come up. This is Brian Bonahum's, and Brian has had this module with us since I don't know, 2005 maybe. He's been in this, done this for that long, and it's very reliable. It works, and it takes balls and moves them on. So we have some new modules here. This is a new one, and so what it does is it takes the forks, goes underneath, comes up, and it moves them on. And it's really a nice new module. So, and some of the coloring, I like the orange. Yeah. Yep.
The orange color stands out nicely.
Yes, it does. And so this is simply the ball pump. And again, if you can see from this side, you might be able to see the ball actually move up through the contraption. That's what we try to do, is put some glass in here. This is one of Brian's old stepper modules that moves really slow. And that's okay. You've got to have some modules that slow things down. This is also Brian Bonahum's piece that conveys balls up into the dozer trap. And so this comes back down. It simply changes polarity of the battery when it hits here. And it goes up, pushes the balls, and when it comes up to the top, it changes polarity here. This switch will flip, and it goes back down. So it's one of the simplest modules in a sense. It's simply a battery that you change polarity as you go through the thing, and it works really well. And what we've come down to now is everyone probably remembers Tom Atkinson in the Bill Bourne dozer. And Tom Atkinson isn't traveling as much, and so Brian Bonahum rebuilt or built a new one. And you can see now we have, these plates. It drives simpler. We have a bypass system on it here now. You can turn this, so if this gets full, that way it will keep feeding here. You can push it anywhere in now, and this system Brian Bonahum designed allows it to spin and pull the balls from any direction. It is very popular. Every kid and some adults love to drive the dozer. And so we let them play as long as we can and, push the balls in and go from there. And so
I've always loved this because it lets the public get involved as well.
Yes, very much so.
And before we move on, I think John's run out of space here, so we're going to have to stop and let him get back inside so he can keep showing it.
Again, from the dozer pit, the balls get pushed into this mechanism, which just is simply a conveyor, brings it up into a ball
stair stepper type of thing.
Stair stepper, yes, very good. And it's really slow, as you can see, but it's this one gets overloaded when we put a lot of balls. And so who's ever running the ball dozer from behind the scenes has to be very careful of how you feed balls.
If they're too efficient with the dozer, then it overloads it.
Yes, absolutely. And so ultimately you end up with balls on the ground. This is simply one of your lifting modules, 2 of them in a row. Again, this is kind of a new module. The other one we saw had the forks come up from underneath. This one has the forks that rotate like this, and it lifts this base up and does a very nice job of continuing to move the balls. It does a good job. This is probably, again, one of Brian Bonahum's very oldest modules that, again, goes relatively slow, paces things. This is the wheel module, and so that works really nice. Now, this is Brian Bonahum's Archimedes screw that he designed, and it's really beautiful. We've used these coal conveyor, the pieces, the one where it dug, and he took all those pieces and then made an Archimedes screw. So if you can shoot down there, and it runs off a simple motor, it rides on these two those pieces, and it does just a beautiful. It runs and runs and runs and runs, and
that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's hard to achieve. It really is. When you design a new module, it sometimes takes a year or two, sometimes to get it all the bugs and get the right tolerances worked. And that one, just right out of the box, has worked wonderful. And so this is another Brian Bonahum module that he's had, again, I would almost bet since 2005. And it works really well. It takes the balls well. It feeds off here. And then it comes down a unique path down to here. And so it's simply a conveyor where it goes back and forth. The conveyor comes up. And, of course, we have to have a skeleton at the top. And so, again, we have one of these modules that slowly moves. And it moves the balls very reliably. This, again, now we're getting into the Ethan McCain and Mike McCain stuff, and they've done beautiful work. Again, you've got this simple conveyor, very small conveyor, but what it does is it feeds a input box that then goes up and snakes up the top. You can see the ball going, and then what happens is Akiyuki developed a snake module, And that's what this is. And this is very stable as long as it's kind of at a curve. If you made it straight, it would want to tip. But as you can see, the balls come down there wonderfully. And this, again, is Ethan McCain. He took the cement mixer, and very unique. I've never seen one like this. And it was actually out of production for a little bit yesterday while he worked on the details. Again, you bring it to the show for the first time, and it's that detail that takes again trying to free it up so it keeps going.
I love the sound it makes. We'll get that real quick. There you go. Yeah, it's clanging around in there.
Yeah, and it sounds like a cement mixer, so it's really nice. And so here we have just a different type of wheel where you've got these two opposite sides, and they spin. And they just come in, and it comes off the top. It drops the ball off here. So this is, again, one of your stepper modules. And this is, I think we've probably all seen this, but not very often, where this comes down here with all the series of gearing just to simply dump it up there. And it's really unique. And when it works perfect, it's great. But you can see it wants to toss the ball that way. But it still gets most of them, right? So, and it's unique to the crowd. It's something so different than just the typical handoff, handoff, handoff. This one has this massive gearing system, which is really cool. And so from there, we have just your typical ball pump. You have your piece that moves up and down. We have what we talked about with the Akiyuki module, with, again, making it shorter and having it step up and down. And I like the yellow with the red piece underneath because it gives that contrast. It shows you what's moving. Kind of looks like your piston in your engine in your car. Of course, you don't see that, but we know what it is.
Also, yellow and red are just the best colors.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, again, this is the module we talked about that we had stacked 70-foot tall or whatever, 70 modules tall. And again, it's really nice. I like this one because even though it's simple, it's a stepper, and this comes along, but it's the outside decorations that I think really give this some pizzazz. Yeah, rather than just, it goes around and pushes balls. You can look at this and go, oh, that's awesome, So then we have the kind of the Palinko machine. And so a lot of people really like this because the ball comes in. Sometimes it goes in this hole. Sometimes it gets to the basketball. And sometimes it just, like Plinko, misses totally. And so it's really a unique module, and it runs really well. Again, this is one we saw just a few minutes ago where the arms spin in the opposite direction. It has a very nice agitator. Instead of just a little point, it has the big one, but you got a bigger box to do it with. Again, this is one we saw a little earlier where it comes up and it works its way, snakes its way all the way up. And then from there, it's just a very simple drop off, and you can see it going back and forth. There's no mechanical, and then when it stops on a piece that's flat, then it'll sit there until the next ball comes along. So it's really neat. So we're back to John Brost's module where he has these two tires that go around and two motors that just take balls that come in and push them to the next level. Comes this back up this way, pushes to here. And this is a unique, instead of the up and down module that was in there, having these spin that way is very unique. It pushes the balls up very nicely. This is one of John's, I think, new modules, and it's an oil rig, and it's really cool. And it's simply a ball pump on the inside, but he's done all this decoration with it. He's done all the height so that you get a feel for, you're pumping oil up from there.
The landscaping around it is so great.
Yes, absolutely. It is cool. And then we're back to the John Brost bridge so that all of us who work back here don't have to crawl under the table, which is just awesome because we don't like to crawl under the table. So.
Yes. I love the blue tubing there as those go down.
I think that's either new or it came up in the last show. I think he redid this end of it, but it's nice because you get to see so many of the balls coolly going around and around and around and around. It reminds me a little bit of the ball coaster, you know, where again we have that same thing, except he's done it in the same color versus, you know, mine's done in different colors. So that brings us to the end of the great ball contraption module here. So thank you for taking some time and letting me explain it.
Yeah.
And
Thank you as well. Do you know how many people were involved in the whole
say
layout?
7.
Okay.
So that's really good.
Yeah.
Because it allows us some break in the middle, you know, instead of you know, just having 2 people. But so yeah, we have about 7 of us. We probably have about 60 modules. You know, you compare that to Brickworld Chicago. I always like to promote that show where sometimes you get almost 300 modules. You know, and so that, you know, for people who are listening and seeing this video, Brickworld Chicago is always Father's Day weekend. And we have other shows coming up. Brickworld Fort Wayne is next weekend, and Brickworld Wisconsin is 2 weekends after that. And then we'll come back to Brickworld Indy somewhere in March.
Yeah.
So.
I'm super excited that all of the Brickworld shows are starting back up here. It's great to see the GBC and just everything else that's on display here. It's very cool.
Absolutely. I think all of us who display are thrilled to death. And I know I've talked to many of the participants, the crowd that are here. They're thrilled to death. I think everyone loves these shows. I wish there was a way to get more of the public out to see them, but you do the best you can. We did a lot of, you know, Mark Larson did a lot of, you know, TV spots and, you know, grabbed a number of people and, you know, and so did the best they could to advertise the show. So.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to take us all around here today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.